All right, guys, welcome back to the Low Carb Consultant Podcast. I'm thrilled today to introduce Dr. John Rusin, also known as the Strength Doc, a doctor of physical therapy, personal trainer, and injury prevention expert. He's been recognized by Men's Health as one of the top 50 fitness professionals globally. And for nearly 2 decades, Dr. Rusin has forged a reputation by blending elite level strength training, functional hypertrophy, and injury resilience into everyday fitness. He's the architect behind the Pain Free Performance Specialist certification and the Unbreakable training app, making elite strength, mobility, and longevity accessible to anyone. So, Dr. Rusin, great to have you on, man. Pleasure to finally meet you.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe before we get into all the fun stuff, training, diet, injury prevention, your philosophy on things, can you give the listeners just a real brief background on yourself and maybe how you got to this point and where you're at right now?
For sure. Well, I started out as the son of two PhD university professors. My dad was in athletic performance and he was an athletic director. And my mom was the dean in health and human services at a local university in my hometown of Buffalo, New York. And I was thrown into two things right away. I was thrown into the gym and on the field and court for sports with my dad. And I was sitting around the university in the library with my mom. And I like to think that my journey was kind of like hybridizing both of those things together in what I'm currently doing today, which is running an education system with pain free performance, coaching clients and athletes with my personalized training, and also with some of the teams that I run. And really just looking at it through a lens of preventative health and fitness as opposed to just run of the mill personal training. But in terms of my background, I started off as an athlete myself. I brought it all the way to a Division I level in baseball, and then ended up being a coach at University of Buffalo for strength and conditioning, and spending a couple years in graduate school, and then heading out to Southern California, taking my first job in sports performance, and for about a decade working predominantly with field and court sport athletes, overhead throwing athletes. Majority are quarterbacks in football, baseball players, and tennis players. And today I find myself in a little bit of a different role with health and longevity being my focus, really with 90% of my client list and a lot of my education focused on everyday people that want to look, feel, and function their best.
Very cool. So it sounds like to me, so we've got kind of a little bit of a split between who we're working with. It sounds like you work with some elite level athletes still, as well as everyday people, correct?
That's correct, but contrary to popular belief, I believe that my training systems, they actually best serve both of those populations, even though we've been told that they need to train totally different. The principles don't change. I think the principles of pain-free performance training best serves all of these different populations because at the end of the day, people need to be healthy systemically. They need to be healthy orthopedically. And if they can achieve both of those things, then achieving their goals or performing at their highest level becomes far easier.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So let's kind of break down your training philosophy so the listeners understand those principles. So how do you go about when someone's coming in and you're trying to diagnose someone or maybe they've got an injury? How do you go about utilizing your principles in terms of taking on that new client and implementing whatever it is we need to implement for progress?
We've worked this for the last 19 years, and I think it's a lot more simple than it was 19 years ago. But we call it the 6x6 protocol. When I bring on a new client or a new athlete, I want to look at the six foundational movement patterns: squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, carry, and degrees of rotation as the seventh. And I also want to look at if they are indeed training and maintaining the core six physical characteristics for health and performance. So that's power, strength, hypertrophy, cardio and conditioning, mobility, and athleticism. That is the first stage audit that I'll do for every type of client that comes in. And that will tell me a lot about the way in which we go after a rebuild process for them in their client management, their programming decisions, and even the way that I am interacting with that client to be able to achieve higher levels of success than they had in the past.
Very cool. What's typically like the biggest performance mistake you see people making right now What's maybe the main thing that you're seeing as clients are coming in? I mean, I'm sure you're seeing all types of issues, whether it's injuries, movement pattern inefficiencies. Let's go with the first one. What's the biggest performance mistake you're seeing people making right now when they're coming in and they're new with you?
I think it's more of a mindset issue for most people. They are placing their performance in front of their health, and they are not achieving either. We like to
Interesting.
have a pain-free performance mindset in terms of the way in which we're prioritizing the first things first. I'm a big believer, I always have been, if we can be healthy, we can achieve anything. But if we're not healthy, if we're struggling with pain, injuries, burnout, or systemic health issues, we're always going to be playing a hard game of back around, trying to rebuild, 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 taking one step forward, two steps back, and kind of getting into that vicious cycle of pain and frustration. So, a health centric, fitness first approach is what we try to go after. But the average person is doing the polar opposite. They're putting aesthetics in front of their health. They're putting their bench press numbers in front of their health. They're putting their marathon time in front of their health. And in all actuality, all of those different goals would be more optimally achieved if they simply felt their best.
That's interesting. And yeah, I would guess I would say I would have to agree with you on that point because I think a lot of times where it's like we've got hobbies where, like you said, running, training for marathons, or we're in the gym, we're just trying to push certain numbers on the barbell, right? Increasing weight, whatever the case is, we get kind of too invested in some of those things and we're not thinking about our overall general health and what we're doing to our body pushing to attain some of those numbers and metrics. Um, so is there like a common issue that you see when you have people coming in? Is it like shoulder issues or just basic movement pattern inefficiency, unable to squat, bad knee? Like what's the most common thing that you're seeing with like everyday people? Because I would say athletes are probably different. I think they're usually most athletes that I've had the pleasure of coaching and training and knowing, they are born with a different type of like things come naturally to an athlete. I think if you watch an athlete move for the first time, you can just tell like the way they squat, the way they walk, the way they run. It's different than most people. So in regards to most people, what's the most common thing that you're seeing?
From an orthopedic perspective, you're going to see the big three almost every single time in current day. Number one, most injured area or most chronically painful area in the human body today is not the lower back. Contrary to popular belief, it is actually the shoulder. So we're seeing a lot of different shoulder presentations where there's a combination of mobility, stability, and skill issues that they're unable to really open themselves up. And they are dealing with the generalized chronic pain condition, which is front-sided shoulder pain. Second on the list, though, is the lower back. The lower back tends to be a chronic pain point for people. We have 3 to 4 decades of research showing that this is the thing that most likely takes people out of their normalized lifestyle. And that is absolutely true. There's people that are dealing a lot with lower back pain and movement pattern disuse. We'll get to that in a second. And then the third one is going to be the knees. The knees tend to take the burden of stress when our hips aren't working, when our lower back hurts, and when our shoulders are not moving well and dysfunctional. So, those big three are interesting because the average person today that goes into a fitness solution is dealing on average with 2.3 chronic pain points. So, the average person coming to you, working with me or anyone else for that matter in the fitness industry in 2025, is dealing with shoulders, hips, knees, lower backs, ankles that don't move, elbows that are flared up, and necks that can't rotate. And we go, oh, okay, well, your goal is hypertrophy and losing 80 pounds this year. But you can't move and you can't function, and we can't really train autonomously. Where do we go from there? And that's why I'm a big believer in hey, let's get healthy first, because if we can lay the foundation for movement health and be able to ingrain a full human movement system spectrum where we're able to actually perform movement patterns that a normal human being should be able to do, then scaling into hypertrophy or losing fat or driving up intensities and volumes becomes that much more meaningful and sustainable.
Sure.
And that last thing, sustainability, that's the name of the game for any professional coach out there who's managing clients.
100%. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And I would say we're all, I mean, even myself, guilty of this in terms of, chasing certain movements, PRs, whatever you want to call it, and but maybe putting those in front of overall health and general movement effectiveness and efficiency for long-term sustainability. That makes all the sense in the world to me. So what would be what would like the protocol look like? Someone's dealing with the big three. What would the protocol look like in terms of exercises you would have them do? Maybe we can talk about diet. I don't know if that's part of the protocol as well. We can chat about that. But on the movement side of things, what would the initial protocol look like for someone dealing with the big three? And I think you said the big three was the shoulder, the lower back, and the knees, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We would go right after a movement system audit. So that's looking at the foundational movement patterns from the most basic of structure. So you look at squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, and carry. Carry is essentially locomotion, moving your body through space. And we look at it from a qualities control perspective. And from there, we access where they are on the pyramid of progression and regression. Do we need to maintain the level of function because we're doing pretty good and we want to maintain it in terms of performance? Or are we having to go into more of a structural rebuild, putting together the component of the parts of a movement pattern, such as a hip hinge, and building it from the ground up, so to say? So it starts with a movement screen, and then it can even go into movement assessments where we look at a deeper dive of unique anthropometry, body type, body structure, limb lengths, joint angulation, and just general skill sets from a training background or an injury background that would alter the way in which their brain is actually perceiving quality movement. So we like to go at a training first approach, meaning that I'm not a big believer of like having a clipboard there and telling people that they're broken and dysfunctional. I want to be able to get them moving because that's what they hired me for, to be able to move and train, and then be able to find access points that we can start maximizing now, and then rebuilding points that we start building back from the ground up with more of a structured protocol where we're taking a step-by-step approach up to load, intensity, and also complexity of the movement and exercise variations.
Interesting. On the diet side of things, do you ever consult? Because obviously, based off diet and, that can cause a lot of inflammatory conditions, having a specific joint or area of the body be stiff, have inflammation, those types of things. Is there any sort of diet protocol that you implement along with the movement side of things?
As much as we have systemized the training protocols, as you say, I think that on the nutritional side of things, it is far more complex and far more individualized based on people's unique preferences, their lifestyle, and also their behavioral habits. But when I take on a client to work with, or even if somebody comes in and trains on the Unbreakable app with us, we have to be vocationally looking at the trifecta of results. If you're looking at only diet or only training or only recovery and lifestyle habits, you're not going to gain optimal results. So, yes, nutrition is one of the big three for us. And it's a non negotiable because you can train all you want on the best programs. You can sleep 10 plus hours per night and you can have a HRV score of 130, or you can actually out eat your diet or your recovery. So we need to be actually looking at this in combination of creating synergy with the other things that we're doing. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people do is that they're either eating well or training like shit, or they're training well and eating like shit, vice versa,
Yeah.
or they're not recovering. And they don't have these three things moving in the same direction to create momentum. And as simple as that sounds, actually coordinating your dietary intakes with your training frequency, intensities, and volumes and goals, those two things, if we can do, you're almost automatically going to jump somebody over the plateau or the hump that they weren't able to do previously.
Very cool. And you mentioned the Unbreakable app. I definitely want to chat about that here in a quick second. But what would you say, like, what would you say is one lesson you think coaches still overlook when trying to keep athletes injury free? Like, is there one common area that you feel like a lot of coaches are just basically overlooking?
We are lacking general physical preparedness today, largely, especially for our general fitness consumers. I think that with the inundation of information or dare I say, entertainment on social media, especially in the fitness influencer space, we see a lot of circus acts. We see a lot of non-actual training. We see people that have never trained another human being in their life giving fitness advice to millions of people. And we lose touch at what the major items are that are going to move us forward individually in the real world versus what is gawktastic when it comes to Instagram or YouTube. And I think that people come in with a really messed up mindset as to what they think they need to do in
Mm,
order to move the result needle forward. But general physical preparedness basically means that we're well rounded to the point where we are strong, we have a strong body composition, we are building muscle, we are burning fat, we are mobile, we're able to accelerate and decelerate, we're able to move like an athlete, and you're able to feel good on a daily basis. But very rarely is somebody coming in with more of a well-rounded mindset. They
yeah.
are coming in with a very dogmatic, narrow view at what they think they need to do. Hey, the barbell lifts are going to cure cancer. 6 to 8 reps, only the squat, bench, dead, and overhead press. That is all I need. On the other side, it's like, no, functional training is all I need. I don't need anything more than the 16 kg kettlebell. And I need to add rotation and lateralization into every single thing that I do, neglecting all strength. Or people throw out strength altogether and they look at, hey, VO2 max is the number one longevity metric that we have at our disposal. I don't have to strength train as long as I run and as long as I'm able to build that VO2 max up, even though I can't even move and feel good on a daily basis. So I think people are very narrow at one dogmatic approach as opposed to building a more well-rounded approach. I call it a actual hybrid approach to training, not just powerlifting and marathon running, but actually doing all the things that a human body should be able to do to be a lifelong athlete and be able to maturely move forward with that mindset versus what we're inundated with.
I love that. No, that makes all the sense in the world to me, and that's how essentially I train. Now I use a lot of the big barbell movements for just general strength, but I also run. I also do cardio. I do kettlebell work. I try to incorporate as many things as possible because when you say general physical preparedness, like it makes me where my mind goes is like you want to be kind of ready for anything, right? And you,
Exactly.
yeah, that's what that means to me. I want to be able to go outside and run. I want to go from standing still to a full high speed run or sprint without necessarily having to spend 30 minutes warming up because my knees and hips and and ankles are so tight. Like I want to have that capability to be ready for anything. And also another thing too is just to be able to build or have the capability to move weight when you're tired. That's another thing I think is kind of important. Like when you're fatigued, when you're tired, how capable are you, if that makes sense? What are your thoughts on that?
It makes total sense. I like what you said to be able to be prepared for anything. Because that's called real life. We
Yeah.
don't know the challenges out in front of us. Maybe we're going to be hit with a really tough diagnosis that we need to battle back from a systemic health perspective. Maybe we find ourselves in a dangerous situation where we need to be able to run or move fast. Maybe we are just stepping off of a curve while drinking a Starbucks, texting on our phone on the street, and we need to decelerate rapidly on a single leg. Maybe you find yourself like me for the first time in 15 years, having to throw 300 pitches a day of batting practice to my son's travel league team this summer and having to not tear my rotator cuff in the process. You
Yeah.
don't know what's out in front of you, but I think that the more capable we are across the spectrum of human capabilities, that is where we find the term lifelong athlete. A lifelong athlete doesn't mean that you have to go and do a high rocks competition or go to the CrossFit games and get all dogmatic with one single training approach. It means that you want to be able to move like an athlete, be pain free, look great, function well, and be emotionally invested in your physical process. And that's something called physical autonomy. Physical autonomy is that you train smart, you eat well, you're able to recover like a boss, and you get to go out and live your life that has benefited from you being healthy and you being functional. Physical autonomy means that you get to do whatever you want to do because you've earned the right to do it. And you don't have pain, you don't have injuries, you don't have repercussions in the process.
I love that philosophy. That is such a great way to look at diet, training, lifestyle as a whole. That is like that is the mentality. If everyone adopted that mentality, think how pain-free. Think how much better everyone's life would be if they adopted that approach. I was curious, when you have new clients coming in, whether they are athletes or everyday people, are they sometimes surprised about your approach? Like we were talking about people who have dogmatic ideologies like, oh, you just got to do CrossFit, or you just got to run and get the VO2 max. That's the only thing that matters. Or you just got to do the heavy barbell lifts. That's it. That's all that really matters. Do you find that sometimes when people come in, they sit down, they chat with you, they learn about your philosophy, your approach, your protocol, are they sometimes surprised to hear what you might be recommending in terms of a game plan for them?
I think earlier on in my coaching career, maybe. Today, I've been extremely fortunate to be in the industry for so long and be in the public space for so long since 2013 that basically everything that I believe, everything that I teach, everything that I systemize, everything that I personally practice, what I preach, it is out there in the public space. Thousands of articles later, we've run 950 two-day in-person live certification courses through Pain Free Performance. It's out there. So the
Yeah.
people that are coming to work with me, they know exactly what they're getting. And I think that's a very interesting conversation because I do a couple different things. Like I'll bring in one-on-one clients. I'll bring in teams that will work with me. I'll develop large-scale team training for thousands of people, like the Unbreakable app. And then I'll also do programming audits. So it's basically consulting. And I'm giving a ton of data. I sift through the data, and then I give general recommendations on what the next steps are. But the interesting thing about all those different portions of my business is that they all lead to the same thing. People know what they need to do. People can make the decision to, yes, I need to change, but sometimes they just need to be validated in saying, yes, this change is warranted for me. And usually that change runs into people running into pain and injuries. Hey, I can't blow out my shoulder again. I need to start training different. Or they run into health issues where, hey, I just had a heart attack and I know that cardio and conditioning needs to be a strong portion of my program going forward. I just end up being the guy that puts the programming together once they've already made the qualified decision to make that change, if that makes sense. But, you know, everyone who comes into me, they know that they're coming in for a specific health first, well rounded program that is going to make them feel and function well. If they want to go in and power lift at a world level competition, don't hire me. If you want to go in and run an ultra marathon against David Goggins, don't hire me. But
Yeah.
if you want to be healthy, you want to have longevity, and you want to train something that adds to your life, then yeah, I am the person to come in and work with and work under. And I think that just carving out that niche, it is a more generalist niche, but it is one and the same where I think that 10 years ago, longevity and health and being well rounded and just being a good human being, able to move, feel, and function well, it was a little bit less popular than it is today. But for better or for worse, we have a lot of big names out there talking about it in the media today. The power of longevity, the power of 40, 50, 60 plus training, and the way in which we organize a lifestyle for a forever plan. And I love that because I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now with that exact same motto and mentality.
I love it. Yeah, I would totally agree with you there. When we wrap up here, we'll talk about where people can find you. We'll talk about the training app, YouTube, all the different elements because you have so many different resources online. But in regards to the website, on your website, you debunk the myth about building muscle while burning fat simultaneously. Can you maybe break down why that's one of the most misguided goals in the industry?
Well, we refer to it as the Holy Grail. And I would be lying to you, Max, if I didn't have 90% of people that come in to work with me, other than getting healthy and getting out of pain, they want to lose fat, they want to build muscle, and they want to move like an athlete.
Who
That is
doesn't?
what
Who does?
everyone is
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
But then you have, the PubMed geeks out there saying like, "Oh, this is impossible. Oh, this is this study and this is that study. You can't build muscle mass and lose body fat." And then any real practitioner working with real live human beings that are actually taking data on a week to week or a month by month basis goes, I know the science says one thing, but how can you tell that this is not working? When you have hundreds of clients that are able to build muscle and reduce their body fat percentage at the same time, you can't tell me that it's impossible because it's happening on a day-to-day basis. But I do think that in order to actually achieve that, we do need to be on point across the board.
Yeah.
We can't be half-assing our workouts. We can't be haphazardly going in and having a nutritional approach that isn't necessarily dialed in. And we definitely need to be sleeping and recovering and de-stressing with tactics that aren't going to take away from those other two metrics. But I can see it day by day. I think that this idea out there that everyone won the Mr. Olympia 10 years ago, and they've maximized optimal muscle mass. And now they're going to try to build more muscle mass and lose fat at the same time. That's not what we're talking about. Or
Yeah.
people come in and they're 4.5% body fat, shredded, and somehow they're going to build muscle and get down to 3% body fat. Everyone likes to look at the outliers and they don't look at the average person coming in that most likely hasn't come close to maximizing any sort of hypertrophic potential. They've never really built muscle meaningfully in their life. And they're probably 10 to 15% over their body fat percentage that is healthy and sustainable. When you deal with real people that have a lot of fat to lose, have a lot of muscle to gain, they're not dieting, they're not training intelligently, and they're sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night, there's only opportunity on the table. And I would say that I hate to promise this to anyone, but I simply show the results because the results speak volumes, whether it's men or women, whether it's people in their 20s all the way up into people in their 60s on my client list. It tends to go in the right direction when, again, you get those three metrics moving forward: training, nutrition, and lifestyle. If we can create that momentum forward, then we start to do the things that are quote unquote unthinkable or impossible.
Yeah. And on that note, if someone's focused on nutrition, but ignoring maybe the strength or the mobility, what would be the first thing that they're likely missing on that side of things?
Usually they're not hitting the requisite amount of volume and frequency of actually structured strength and hypertrophy that they need to be eliciting on a weekly basis. I have a number of awesome clients that come in, and I manage a lot of coaches, a lot of nutritionists, physical therapists, and physicians. About 80% of my client list is professionals in the field that really know their shit. So
Hmm.
the nutritionists are usually the best ones because they'll come in and you'll look at their diets and you're like, wow, are you locked in? Like, this is amazing. But their body comp isn't what they want it to be. And they're
Mm.
dealing with the same issues as everyone else. So you're like, okay, well, you have one out of the three triads taken care of. Usually it's a lack of progressive strength training, it's a lack of intentional functional hypertrophy, and it's a lack of training frequency and overall training volumes that hits minimal effective dosages. Usually, I'll see that people are training anywhere from like 1 to 2 times per week. I'm sorry, you can maybe maintain at that amount of frequency, but unless you're training 3 hour sessions and you're Ronnie Coleman, you're not going to be able to actually make positive adaptations in your body comp. Usually, bringing somebody from 2 days per week to 3 days per week, or 3 days per week to 4 days per week, and being able to focus intentional intensities and volumes that hit that minimal effective dosage, that is when they go from moving around with weights unintentionally
Yeah.
to actually intentionally going to get strong and building muscle. And then they take all the advantages from a high-end nutrition protocols that they've already had, and that's where they start to trajectory change. I see that almost every single time.
Yeah. So
People,
basically, what you're saying is in a lot of these cases, the simplest way to put it is people are moving unintentionally, or another way to say it is they're just not working out. An easy way to put it is they're just not working out hard enough. They're maybe going into the gym, doing 3 sets of 10 here, 3 sets of 10. They're maybe not pushing to failure. And basically, they're not sending the appropriate message to the muscle group that it needs to progress or change. They're just not working out hard enough. Would that be an accurate way to put it?
yeah, we see this all the time across social media. I call it woke fitness. Woke fitness is this: all you have to do to be your most optimal self is just lift weights, quote unquote, lift weights, and walk. And I'm sitting here like, just because you pick up a weight doesn't mean that it's strength training. Just because you are using a machine doesn't necessarily mean that you have a muscular adaptation to cause hypertrophy. Just because you're going through the motions, hoping and praying that you do something, doesn't mean that you don't need to work hard and also work smart. I
Mm,
think it's less of a working hard issue for most people. It's that they don't know how to elicit the proper adaptation for the goal in hand. They don't know that when they strength train, we need to be hitting failure with technical proficiency in order to have the mind and the muscles being able to adapt. They don't know that when we hit hypertrophy, volume is a key driver that we need to hit minimal effective dosages with total volume in order to grow the tissues. They don't know that when we do conditioning, we need to be up into zone 4 or zone 5, close to maximal heart rates in order to gain that VO2 max. They don't know that when we do cardio, we actually need to be at a zone 2, which is 60 to 70% of maximal heart rate, in order to have any elicited adaptation whatsoever. Just lifting, aka working with weights, and just walking, aka moving, that's not necessarily going to lead to long-term positive adaptations. And people are already in there spending the time. And the thing that gets at me the most is like, I love when people are in the gym. I love when people are there every single day, investing their time and their energy and their money. But don't you want to get the most out of that?
yeah,
People are so close most of the time. They're so close, and making a couple key adjustments allows them to maximize their potential. And that feels better than anything. Yes, just lift and just walk. That feels good to say for people because
yeah,
it's a very low barrier of entry. But these aren't
exactly.
the people that I'm working with. The
Yeah.
people that I'm working with are looking at trying to optimize their health for a lifetime. And when that's the goal, I take that very seriously. That means that we actually need to get at this in a more intelligent way.
Yeah, I think you said the phrasing perfectly a little bit earlier. People are just going through the motions. Like just because you're picking up weights and you're going for a walk, yeah, that might be able to elicit some sort of a progress early on in regards to maybe some newbie gains or whatever the case is. And yes, walking is great, but in terms of performing as effectively, efficiently, and optimizing performance and movement as a human being, you're going to have to put your body in certain situations and in circumstance of needing to adapt and forcing that adaptation. Like you said, you got to get into zone 4 or 5 if you're trying to increase increase your cardio in any sort of meaningful way. You're going to have to train till failure if you want to send the right message to your muscle group in order to adapt. Your body's not going to want to do it if you're just going through the motions.
And this is why I think, yes, you can trade fat for muscle, because the majority of people are going through the motions. They don't mean to be. That doesn't mean you're a bad person if you haven't had success with this. You just haven't been equipped with the proper tools yet. You haven't been equipped with the proper systems or the protocols that are going to move the needle for you. And those are the people that I love working with the most, is because they've already made the choice that health is important to them. They're already consistent. They're already tracking their nutrition. They're already in there sweating it out and trying to work hard in the gym. That is a perfect client for me. That is a perfect client to come work at any capacity to me, because they've already proven that they have up here what it takes to make a change for a lifetime. I love putting in programming for them and going, watch this happen, and showing them the course that will change the trajectory of their health and the results. Because no matter if you are the fittest person that you know, most likely you're not at your fittest. You are not at your highest potential level in terms of your performance. And top performers, they're always competing not against anyone else, they're competing against themselves, because the
Mm,
game is about us. The game is not about anyone else. It's about us being able to feel and function our best. And that's true empowerment. So when you can get people that are running into brick walls in terms of frustration, that are already active and seemingly doing the right things, and giving them a more qualified plan to be able to achieve, it's the best thing in the world, because it's showing somebody that, yes, you are doing the right things. You have made huge progress mentally. Now, physically, it's time to go, because I'm going to give you the tools for it.
yeah, absolutely. And I would agree with you too. The best clients from when I used to own the gym out in Vegas and the most fun clients are the ones that they they might not know exactly what to do, but they're bringing the energy and the mentality in regards to showing up, putting in the work, taking direction, being coachable for sure, and then implementing the things out on the outside. those are the types of people that are going to see the most success the quickest.
I think about this a lot. Everyone's always about aesthetics. We judge somebody's character by their aesthetics. We judge their training program by their aesthetics. We judge their ability to be an expert by their aesthetics. I don't. I just don't. I can respect a great aesthetic, but I respect action.
Yeah,
Action takers, people that are going in and putting in the work and investing their time, money, energy, and focus into being better. Action takers are where it's at, and they have my highest level of respect because there is a genetic component to having a pure aesthetic that is Instagram worthy.
sure.
And then there's a component of being a real human, trying to be at your best, which is you taking action on a day-to-day basis. And man, if we had a world full of action takers, it'd be a whole new world out there.
Oh, man, that's so well put, 1,000%. It's all about taking the action, and to your point, yeah, it's like so those great bodies that we all see on Instagram, those are some genetically gifted people. Like the girls like selling the booty programs, they are genetically built with that type of physique. You know what I mean? And it's the people that are ultimately trying their best to come in here and put in the effort and the work that are going to see the results. I 100% agree with you. Let's talk about the Unbreakable app here a little bit. What goes into that? What went into the development of that? How can people use it?
Unbreakable app is essentially an all access program that covers training, nutrition, coaching, and a lot of different unique add ons to be able to create your perfect program at a dollar point that makes sense for almost everybody. It took us about 9 months to develop Unbreakable, but I was unhappy with the types of training teams that I was managing. Yes, the programming was great. The delivering was a little bit more subpar, but I knew that we needed to get people more than just a great program in order to do what we've been talking about this entire podcast, which has actually changed the trajectory of their health. So Unbreakable is an interesting one because I was a big believer that people need flexibility with their training.
Mhm.
Not every week's going to be the same. Not every gym's going to be the same. People have lives, people have kids, people have travel, people have work. So we need flexibility in terms of the way in which we schedule, but the goal needs to be remaining the same, which is burn fat, build muscle, get healthy. And I have inside of Unbreakable 10 different programs that are forever programs. So they run in simultaneous with one another, and you're able to train full body, upper lower splits, up to 6 and 7 days per week. There's dumbbell and band programs that's had that same goal set, and people are able to mix and match their perfect training schedule. So you can do an upper lower split, a movement pattern split, a full body day, and then toggle in cardio conditioning, and even have specific mobility days, 15 or 20 minutes at a time, that allow us to have that hybridized schedule that we've been talking about. So I think that's a lot different than anything else that I've done in my career because I have sold a lot of awesome single cell programs, functional hypertrophy, functional power training, foundations training program. Hundreds of thousands of people have used these things, but it was one program. But I know
Mhm.
very well that people need optionality. People need the ability to make decisions based on the reality versus their theoretical. So Unbreakable was the first time in my career that I was able to deliver a platform which was all access. So you get access to everything and actually be able to pick and choose to create your perfect plan. And that was a game changer right off the bat for people. But a lot of people that have used my previous programs, they're like, I don't even understand. What am I supposed to do with this? I'm not supposed to just follow one. No, you can have everything. And I think the reason that it's been so powerful is that I have 5 head coaches that are inside of Unbreakable to assist all of our members with it. So we're able to actually assist in the creation of the perfect plan.
That's so cool. So when someone downloads the app, does it take them through like a series of questions? I'm assuming in regards to like, hey, okay, what are you trying to attain? What are the goals? Where do you have pain points? Where do you have movement inefficiencies? What are you trying to ultimately go for? And then it will recommend a plan and you can kind of pick and choose different movements. Yeah, walk us through it.
Yeah, so when you come in, you're going to have access to everything. But through the first 3 or 4 days, we want to make sure that one, you can choose your primary training program, which is going to be like the base training program, usually based on 2 different things. It's going to be based on your frequency of training per week. What can you 100% get in no matter what happens? And also based on your goal. So, boom, you have your primary training program. The next level is, hey, what is your pain point? and we start to toggle in different 6-phase dynamic warm-up protocols specific at those pain points, whether it's shoulder, lower back, knee. You can do them all simultaneously. That's the next level. And then the third level is to be able to go, hey, what do you need a little bit more of? Because we have supplemental plans that add on to the primary plan that have an emphasis on mobility and have an emphasis on cardio and conditioning. So you can pick and choose specific mobility for hip mobility, for instance, 2 days per week. You can toggle in zone 2 cardio 2 days per week. And you can
Mm.
create this program that is now a primary program. You have your pain points that are covered, and then you have these supplemental plans that can be toggled in to be able to emphasize mobility and also emphasize cardio and conditioning.
Gotcha. So right now I'm just basically thinking about how I would use this app. So I lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do cardio, like running kettlebell work or kettlebell swings Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And so basically what I can do is go in, go through like maybe the initial structure flow of the app, put in how I like to work out and basically build myself like a hybrid training program. And then I could probably also, to your point, toggle in, okay, I'm having issues with hip tightness, lower back tightness, knee stiffness, whatever the case. I can toggle in some different mobility elements in order to get where I'm ultimately trying to go. Right? That's how the app's essentially structured.
That's exactly right. And if that seems like super arduous of like, oh my God, I need to do this, 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 and this, like
Hmm.
that's available. But also it's available where it's like, hey, based on what you just told me, you need to be doing the ultimate plan, which is 3 days per week of full body lifting, 3 days per week of functional cardio and conditioning. And you just toggle into mobility and you are set within one click of a button. So
Man,
that's the
I
one that
want to
I
download
do.
this thing right now.
I follow a plan very similar to yours. I follow the ultimate pain-free performance program inside of my own app. So anyone who follows me on Instagram, you'll see that the reason that you're seeing so many like free workouts is because I'm literally doing those workouts just as my own health and fitness every single day. It's a little bit of a bitch to be able to bring in the tripod and get videos of everything, but that
Yeah.
is happening in real time. I'm not like setting the camera up. This isn't curated content. This is, hey, I got 60 minutes today because I'm a business owner, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have shit to do. I'm getting you real time. Here's a top end set of me killing myself in the exact program that you can use. I think that people, they do gravitate towards that because when I do share the real stuff, it's not like I have a closed set to be able to show you and fool you into doing something that I'm not doing. One of my biggest tenets of the way that I've run my career is practice what I preach. And if it is so good that I will put my health and performance on the line with it, I believe that you should do it too. And I've always been one of the biggest advocates of running my own training. I get to the point where if I manage one on one clients, I will personally run their own training programs before I ever give it to them. I think that we learn so much with our own bodies that we can fine tune, we can adjust and then pay it forward. That is a special thing that a personal trainer or a strength coach has above any other profession. You know, your CPA is not going to go in and fuck up his own taxes before he goes in and messes with yours.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to run everybody's plan and be able to feel the elicited adaptations that we're talking about in order to pay them forward in the most efficient way.
Very cool. I was actually going to ask you, what does like your week like your week look like in terms of your training? I think you said you're following the ultimate plan in your app, correct?
Correct. The
So what
ultimate
is
pain free performance plan.
very cool. So what does like your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, take us what through the week looks like real quick. Like, do you have certain days you're doing strength, certain days you're doing cardio, certain days you're doing mobility? Yeah. What does that look like for you specifically?
Specifically for me, I like to be active for 60 minutes every single day on a structured program. It's not for everyone, but it is definitely for me.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit weird like that because I go at not only the result in the gym, but the way that it makes me feel after because I also work 7 days per week. But I will go in, right now, I am doing a 4 day strength and hypertrophy focused high day plan. So on Mondays, it will be a deadlift emphasis day. That will essentially be a total lower body day. And then on Tuesdays, it will be more of a push emphasis day that will be upper body focused. And then on Wednesday, it will be a functional conditioning circuit that will have more emphasis on higher heart rates in that circuit. We'll also do more direct conditioning work in those higher heart rate zones with recovery, and then also toggle on mobility and zone 2 cardio, all in 60 minutes. On Thursday, I have another lower body day that is a squat emphasis lower body. On Friday, I will have a pull emphasis upper body day. And then on Saturday, it will be another one of those days that mirrors like a day on Wednesday, which will be a functional conditioning circuit plus high end heart rate zones and zone two at the end. And I think that having those high lows, it makes you feel really good because we're not just cranking barbell lifts every single high day. And
Yeah.
we're not just walking on the treadmill on an incline on the low days. There's going to be a combination of different emphases every single day with different movement patterns, different physical characteristics. But I've learned that when I train consistently on this schedule and I'm able to put power, strength, hypertrophy, and conditioning into a same session, very rarely do you feel bad or do you feel burned out or do you feel like you can't reproduce a high level of effort and quality on the next day. One of my biggest things is that I want to be able to personally leave the gym feeling better than when I went in. And I think
Yeah.
that's what gravitates me towards doing something 7 days a week.
Yeah, and same thing too, when you wake up the next day, you wanna have you don't wanna necessarily have, like, the muscle soreness. Obviously, we want sore muscles, but if you stagger the workouts the correct way, you're not gonna be, like, doubling up on certain muscle groups from one day to the next day, so you're able to train, not feel sore, have full capabilities. That makes all the sense in the world to me. I know, and by the way, I can't wait to check out the app because now I'm basically sold on it. This sounds super, super cool.
Love to have you.
Yeah, yeah. We're starting to come up here on time. I've got some rapid fire questions that don't necessarily need to have rapid fire answers. Feel free to
Okay.
elaborate here a little bit, but I got some fun ones for you. So, what's the single most overrated exercise you wish people would stop doing, and what should they do instead?
Ooh, there's a lot that get overtrained or mistrained, but I do think right now I see that the barbell back squat is the be all end all of everything for most people.
Hmm.
And while this has a very high return on investment for an intermediate to an advanced trainee that is pain free, that has mobility and stability, and has the skill and the training history to be able to withstand that high amount of load, high amount of skill and stress. I don't think it's necessarily for everybody. And when we actually qualify the worth in terms of ROI of all six foundational movement patterns, I do believe, based on the data that we drive, that the bilateral back squat with the barbell on your back is the least effective of all of the different movement patterns that we have at our disposal with a
Interesting.
more traditional lens. One could argue any of the traditional barbell lifts, but the way in which we get the most success out of them is that we sprinkle them into programming. People hear me say, like, hey, not everyone should barbell back squat. And they hear, hey, John doesn't believe that anyone should barbell back squat. But then they jump into Unbreakable app and they're like, oh, it's an option almost every week. Awesome. If you have the capability to do it, do it. But where we run into problems is people force feeding a specific exercise into their program that they're not capable of doing at a high amount of quality, and
Hmm.
they don't have the load capacity to elicit the desired adaptation. That turns into what we were talking about before, just moving and hoping that something happens via the work that we do. I'd rather do something that is more feasible in terms of unlocking somebody's potential to perform. Your body doesn't know the difference between exercises. It knows movement patterns, it knows neural connection points, and it knows its ability to gain tension and strain. And if that is the goal, we have 101 different ways to replace the barbell back squat. If that, for whatever reason, isn't an ideal fit for you on that program, on that week, or on that training day.
Yeah, and here's another thing that just popped up into my mind too. Anatomically, we're all designed a little bit different. Some people are shorter, some people are bigger. When you think about the barbell, right? You got a barbell and some plates on a barbell. What is that thing? It's like maybe 9, 10 inches off the ground.
8.75 inches.
Dude, you got it. Yeah. 8.75 inches off the ground. People that have different structures that are tall, short, like that might not necessarily, that doesn't work for everybody. Right. And it kind of reminds me too of like a front squat for how someone's designed or built might be better than a back squat or
Of course.
like a trap bar deadlift because of how someone is built and how far they have to go down to pick up off the ground would be a better option for them to hold the load rather than out in front and pick it up. Well, like, what are your thoughts there? Because I feel like that's kind of what you're saying too.
Pain-Free Performance, my certification, and then my upcoming book, it focuses in over 300 pages on this exact topic of individualization based on people's unique physical presentations. It's not just limb lengths, it's actual joint angulation and joint structure. In Pain-Free Performance, we go through specific protocols for the squat, for instance, called a hip quadrant test. It shows us the depth, the angulation, the socket height, and also the ability for our hips to move into flexion, external rotation, and abduction to get us into the most ideal squat stance. Guess what? It's going to be different for almost everybody.
Yeah.
And we're able to unlock people that were following a textbook approach squat, shoulder width apart, toes slightly out, because that was a mismatched stance for them based on what they unchangeably have as their unique anatomical structure. And I think a lot of the foundations of what pain-free performance teaches is optimizing around your most optimal movement pattern, which is going to be unique to you. It's going to look different than somebody else's, but in terms of being able to gain joint centration and stability, in terms of being able to line up maximal muscular recruitment, it's okay if it looks different as long as it doesn't elicit pain, it maximizes your performance, and allows you to be at your best self. And I think that that idea is still really hard for people to conceptualize because so much of our focus is on everybody else training in the gym, everyone else training on Instagram, the way that the models look in a textbook that you may be reading. And when all actuality, what we worked really hard with pain-free performance over the last 10 years of the certification and now in the book is that we can explore your unique variables that will automatically lift up the glass ceiling that's been over your head for probably years at this point.
Yeah, makes all the sense in the world to me. If you could pick one move to keep someone strong, mobile, pain-free for life, what would it be? One movement.
One movement, I would have to go with a hip hinge variation. The hip hinge variation I just really believe in is the pure hip hinge pattern, which is more of a Romanian deadlift. The Romanian deadlift is an awesome movement because it really trains everything simultaneously. And
Mm,
different than a deadlift, we're able to actually get muscular recruitment between a lowering eccentric phase that stretches the hamstrings. We have a concentric raising phase that really flexes the glutes hard under a lot of load. We have lower back maintaining a strong isometric position that adds to resilience throughout the lumbosacral area of the body. And then we also have the contact points of the load connected to our arms, which integrates irradiation from the hands. It integrates upper back dynamic stability, and it allows us to be standing on 2 feet to be able to be interacting with the ground and the load simultaneously. So I think that the Romanian deadlift is so powerful for building muscle. It is so powerful for building functional strength. It is so powerful for having resilience in the body. And it is most powerful for reversing postural distress disorders that we have for just sitting and normal technology use in our hands. It essentially reverses what we would be doing seated in a chair.
beautiful. 100% agree. What's the biggest lie the fitness industry keeps selling that's actually making people weaker or more injured?
It's the booty chicks. It's the booty chicks on Instagram that have 5 to 6 million followers, and
Yeah,
they are doing body weight or band workouts, or they have a single 5-pound dumbbell. But all of a sudden, their lower bodies look like they may as well be horses. Their abs are so defined that you can't even believe that somebody could look like this, and their
yeah.
upper body looks like they're about to win a bench press contest. I will not throw anyone under the bus here, but I
Mhm.
will attest to having trained 2 or 3 of these ladies in the last 2 years. We are training for strict strength and hypertrophy, and we are doing extraordinarily well, and we're improving and maintaining the physique that they have, usually from a bodybuilding background. That's where they're coming from to look like this.
Mm,
But in order for them to sell, in order for them to shill supplements, in order for them to sexualize their social media, they are having to make it the most accessible training programs possible in order to essentially fool and lie people into joining their apps or joining their programs. And they end up doing one thing to achieve this physique over 5, 8, 10 years to get to look like that, and then training extraordinarily hard to maintain it, sometimes with me, and then going in and selling something that you can do for 17 minutes a day while you're in Bali on your pool deck while
Yeah.
you're in a bikini with somebody doing a $10,000 video shoot in the process so you can post it on your social media. Like that is, it's not necessarily hurting people, right? Like I don't believe that somebody's going to get hurt doing a body weight and band program or hoisting a 5-pound dumbbell, but it hurts your psyche. It hurts your soul. It hurts your mindset and it hurts your momentum because you believe that, yes, that's possible. I'm the average lady that's 40 or 50 pounds overweight. I don't have a backside. I'm looking to grow my butt and having 6-pack abs. And I think that following this lady's program is going to be the key to success. I think you're a fucking failure as a human being if you are selling something that you are not doing yourself and claiming that you
Mm, well put. Can't say it any
have.
better than that. Next question. You've trained elite athletes and everyday people. What's the one difference that separates those two people that anyone could adopt right now?
The thing that separates those two people, I tend to have a harder time motivating and a harder time with buy-in of my top high performance athletes than I do for my general fitness populations. Reason being is that many people in general fitness population, this is our thing that we do.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily a hobby, but this is our one area of our life that we're able to expend ourselves physically in. So we have a little bit more focus on it. But when you work with somebody who's on the field on Sundays making $20 million, or they're playing a Major League Baseball season at 162 games, their focus is on the game. Their focus is on practice. Their focus is on their mindset. And very rarely is that same amount of focus placed in their prehab, rehab, strength and conditioning work. So you have a lot less time to work with these athletes. You have a lot less impact on these athletes, but you are expected to deliver at an even higher rate than you would for somebody who is a general fitness population. So I think that the difference between a super high performer, whether they're an athlete or whether they're just looking to be their healthiest and best self, is mindset. The
beautiful.
mindset separates an athlete that will be in the major leagues for 10 to 12 years versus the athlete that came up for 10 to 12 games in their career. The mindset will shift somebody from taking down a weight loss or a physique goal and maintaining it for a couple weeks to a couple months to somebody that can do a decade or two of maintenance. I think the mindset and the way that we habituate and professionalize us making this automatic within our lifestyle, I think that that maturity of mindset and you hardening your ability to make sure that it's a priority automatically, that is what is going to send somebody on a totally different stratosphere.
Yeah, 100% agree. When I think of Tom Brady, right? What what really got him his success with was absolutely not his athletic capability. He was not like the greatest athlete. But when you look at a lot of the other athletic quarterbacks, what really set him apart was his mindset, how he prepared, how he watched film, how he worked out, how he took care of his body. And that's what I think you're getting at. If people have that capability, and anyone can do that. That just really takes discipline and consistency. Anyone can attain the mindset shift really and adopt that. It's just putting in the work and doing it over and over and over again, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble for telling this story, but I'm gonna tell it anyways.
Sure. I
Three
love it.
weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we were in Las Vegas with my pain-free performance team. We were in our studio shooting for the Unbreakable app for a couple days, and it was a Sunday morning, and we were staying at the Fountain Blue Hotel. Super awesome place, and the reason that we stay there is because it has the best gym in the world. This gym is awesome. Like it is the best by far. So me and my team, because we have to be in studio at 6 a.m., we roll into the gym right when it opens at 4 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Mhm.
And there's a handful of people kind of waiting with us in front of the doors in order for the hotel gym to open up. So we open it up, we start training, and there's three different portions of the Fountain Blue Hotel gym. There's like a strength training, cardio training, and then like Pilates and group training classes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, about 10, 15 minutes into our session, we go back into the strength area and we see these two bros bench pressing. So they're doing a bench press workout. They're doing a little bit of band work. And it took us a good like 5, 6 minutes to realize like, oh, that's Tom Brady. That's Tom Brady training with not his trainer, just a random guy. And they're doing a bench press workout. And they were in there before us. So they must have been there in there at 3 a.m. and he is getting after it on a Sunday morning like I've never seen before. So I was blown away. I'm telling my team, I'm like, hey guys, this is what success looks like. When
Yeah.
everyone else is sleeping, when everyone else is drinking, when everyone else is doing drugs or gambling, this guy is in there at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning getting his training in. He practices what he preaches because he's a fitness guy as well. I
Yeah.
later on figure out that on Instagram, I see all this stuff coming through. Happy birthday, Tom Brady. It
It
was his
was
birthday.
it was he's in there at like 3:30 in the morning training.
3:30 in the morning, Sunday morning, training on his birthday, and he opened up his new gallery at the Fountain Blue that day. You want to tell me that
That's
somebody
awesome.
isn't driven by their health and their performance, isn't driven by their training, isn't doing this 7 days a week because it matters what not only what they do on the field, what they do in their life? That was the perfect example. I'm still blown away from that, but that's the kind of shit that pushes me. I'm like, I would
Yeah.
never compare myself to Tom Brady, but I'm like, man, people are operating at a whole different level. And if you
Yeah.
want to ultimately succeed in whatever your goal is, then your health and your fitness needs to be the cornerstone.
Oh my god, that is such a cool story, and, when you see all the clips about him being interviewed and how he talks and his mindset and how he prepares, like, to be honest with you, I'm not really surprised, like, that's what you saw because that's kind of what he puts out, but wow, what a really, really cool story. Last question here, and then we'll wrap up. We've got 10 movements, 10 exercises that you can do for the rest of your life, only 10. They don't necessarily have to be in any specific order, but what
Okay.
are they for you?
Let's go 5 lower body. So it'll be trap bar deadlift, Romanian deadlift, Bulgarian split squat, goblet squat, and most likely a lateral lunge.
Okay.
For upper body, I would be doing a neutral grip pull up, face pull, single arm dumbbell or cable row, most likely going some sort of rear delt direct work, whether it be a rear delt lateral raise or a cable raise. And I hate to say it, but I would
Mhm.
say if you're capable of doing so, bench pressing has a high degree of return that people can get away from.
Beautiful. Well done. All right. Well, Dr. Russin, this was awesome. Where can people find you online, get in contact with you, work with you? Again, I'll put everything in the show notes, but feel free to drop whatever you like.
You can find me over on Instagram at Dr. John Rusin, at DrJohnRusin. Same thing over on Facebook. If you want to learn more about the Unbreakable app, go to becomeunbreakable.com. And if you're interested in learning about pain free performance in my brand new book, you can go to becomeunbreakable.com/book bonus. And you can actually get a free training program by pre ordering the pain free performance book today.
So cool. So cool. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for listening to the Low Carb Consultant Podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next one.